Hello everyone, good morning. Welcome to another section with HACK365 Global. And on today's section, we'll be looking at real-world application security and testing tactics. By way of introduction, my name is Favor Anyam. If this is your first time joining us for this section, kindly create your account on hack365global.com because you'll be needing that for the labs, the practical labs at the end of the theory explanations. And for questions for our online participants, if you have questions, kindly drop it in the comment section. And for the in-person participants, please note down your questions, and at the end of the section, we'll attend to them. Right. Right now, I'll be handing over to our facilitator, David. David, please take over.
Good morning, everybody. So, welcome to today's session of our weekly practical sessions. And yeah, by way of introduction, my name is David. And for this week, we'll be looking at real-world application security and testing tactics. Basically, we're looking at how test web applications, how the applications work, and testing methodology of course, we cannot finish for today, but we hope to get a strong footing for understanding for everyone. So, yes, so we have a couple of objectives for this. First of all, to understand what web application security testing is and why it matters. Second of all, we understand the components of web communication, which is basically and also the client server management. We also want to ensure that we're able to recognize components of web vulnerabilities. It's part of the whole aspect of it. And finally, we want to ensure that we're able to learn how to use essential tools like Burp and browser development. Right, so just your comments. So maybe I will jump to introduction. We're going to be finding what web application security testing is. So, web application security testing is the process of evaluating and identifying vulnerabilities in web applications. For example, the same applications you use for your e-commerce, online banking, forms, dashboards, etc. All right, yes. So like I said, web application security testing is just evaluating and identifying vulnerabilities in web-based applications. For example, the same ones you use for e-commerce, online banking, forms, dashboards, etc. I hope it makes sense. Now, why does it matter? Why does web application security testing matter? It matters because, first of all, web applications are exposed to the public internet. So it means everybody has access to web applications, both users, business users, and business users are exposed or have access to web applications. It's imperative to be sure that there's proper security measures on those applications. Second of all, 90% plus of data breaches start by web applications. For example, login forms and APIs. What I can say is, majority of the data breaches you hear with likes of Facebook, Meta, even social media platforms will be majority of the breaches that have start from the web applications we use. And the APIs are because APIs have a tendency to provide excessive information called information disclosure. So it's imperative that you have your applications secure. Thirdly, applications change frequently. So the more you know, the more applications come up with new methods, vulnerabilities are introduced regularly. It's a continuous process. More of a continuous process. So it's imperative that you have constant security testing on the web applications. Right. Now, what does the security testing involve? It involves understanding how the application communicates. You want to understand how an application communicates with the server it's working its own from, and how it works generally. So we have, for example, the HTTP requests, forms, how sessions work, how forms work, what an HTTP request is. You want to understand that in the context of web security tests. Second of all, you want to, it involves identifying potential weaknesses. What are the tools that can detect for weaknesses? So there are things to use, upload forms, cookies, search query lists, and the likes of them. So web security wants to know that these are possible things that you should test or you should test. Thirdly, it also involves exploiting those flaws and find to prove that they exist. So it's not just for you to just see a bug and then or see something like this at a bug, and then you leave this and assume that it's a bug. You have to actually carry it out and exploit that vulnerability to be sure that to prove to whosoever is having the project that it was yours. Just like coming into a house and you discover that the front door is open. You don't just want to stop there because anybody can tell me the front door is not actually open. You want to enter into the house and do something that will prove that yes, the front door was open. That was testing it was. Also, finally, it involves reporting them responsibly for remediation. So you don't just want to test and do it haphazardly. You want to report and document them for remediation by the people that are handling the project. Also, because you are the one testing, you most likely want to communicate with people handling the project or specifically the application. You want to communicate in a language that people can understand. So, as much as there are technicalities to this, there are also aspects that belongs to you being able to communicate properly. Okay. Now, let's start off with how the web works. So, how does the web work? So, the first thing I want to look at is the client server model. Now, what's the client? The web browser. So, for example, Chrome is a client, Microsoft is a client, Microsoft Firefox, Mozilla Firefox is a client, Microsoft Edge is a client, Brave is a client. Think of a browser when you hear client. Now, what does the client do? It's first of all initiates a request. So every action you carry out on an application is a request. Basically, that's what it is. It's just a request. Every action you carry out on an application is a request. You want to work, making a lot of requests. You want to upload your picture and making an upload request. You want to download something and making a download request. Everything you do is a request. As much as even changing tabs or moving to another tab or moving to another page, it's also a request. Now, so your client initiates a request. That's one. Second of all, is server. So what is a server? A server is a computer or a software that is running on it. For example, Apache is a server, Nginx is a kind of server. So what are we trying to say here? We're trying to say that a server is a computer that hosts your application and resources. So it's put a system or an engine room where the web application is sitting on. So the application is not controlling itself. There is something that powers it. What powers it is the server. So the server is what powers the web application and the resources. So everything that your application has, including its files, the documents it uses for its operation, it's hosted on the server. Now, so it waits for the requests That's it's gotten from where now, which is it's gotten from the client that initiates the request from the onset. So the client initiates a request, the server waits for the requests and sends responses. So the server says, or sorry, the client says, take me to tab 2. The server receives the request to go to tab 2, its responses back, client to tab 2. So it means there's a form of connection and relationship between the client and the server. Now, so here's how to do it. This is the basic interaction. Client sends request, the server processes the request and sends back responses. Now, how does it? Now we're going to be looking at the request response cycle. Now, what's the request response cycle? Now, first of all, the user enters the URL. For example, check for youtube.com. How does that work? When you search for youtube.com, remember we mentioned that clients initiate requests. So when you search for youtube.com, you're making a request propose. You're making a request to YouTube server. Now, the browser initiates the request. There's something called the DNS involved. What happens? The browser resolves the domain name to an IP address. So what is DNS? I call DNS a text code that has the address of every IP address we post in. It matches those two things together. So when you initiate a request, what DNS lookup does, it tries to match up the URL you're trying to do to an IP address, because the IP address is what the server uses. Everything that has an IP is running on the hardware, because it's on the server. Now, so when you make a request, DNS lookup tries as much as possible to resolve the domain name to an IP address, ensures they match. Then when there's a match, something called the TCP connection is made. Now, the browser will establish a TCP connection to the server's IP address on the appropriate port to run, which could either port 80 or HTTP. Port 443 or HTTPS. Now, then the browser sends an HTTP request message. And after it sends the request message, the web server receives the request, processes it, tries to make sense of the request that the browser makes, interacts with the database and other services. Then the browser will send a response back. So the server will send the response back to the browser. Then the browser receives the response. Now the response the browser receives is what you interpret. The browser helps you to interpret the response as the main tab you see or the tab you see, which is the senior set and the. So you see that there's a whole lot of process before you just spin up your page. That small 1 second is actually what happens. Now, so basically, in simple terms, when you enter the URL and hit enter, browser sends an HTTP request to the server. The server processes the request and returns an HTTP response. The browser will interpret it as a web page. That's simple. The browser sends the request to the server. The server will process the request and return the response. And the response is what the browser will render back to you as a web page. So what are the HTTP methods that you want to familiar with? You have the get method, which is used to retrieve data. Call it get, you either call it the get method or you call it the get request. Now, to use it to retrieve data, for example, you need to create a blog post. What is a post method or a post request? It's a request that enables you to submit data. So when you input your login credentials into the login field, what you're going to do is a post request. Now, the put is used to update data. When you want to update something, for example, you're trying to update your profile, and then you add additional information. When you put your request, then you also have the delete request that is used to delete data. Both of these are explained when you get into APIs and their operations. So, for the sake of web security testing, we want to understand the difference between these two types. HTTP, which is hypertext transfer protocol, is the stateless application layer protocol for transmitting hypermedia documents Now, each request from client to server is independent. So the server does not retain knowledge of past requests. This is why we do something called session, because the server does not retain knowledge. So it needs a way to retain knowledge. So we use cookies and sessions. Now, there is a reason why HTTP is more of a problem in web security. In HTTP, data exchange over this protocol in plain text, thereby making it unable to please dropping or sniffing or tapping the transit, which we call one-dimensional attacks. Whereas HTTPS uses HTTP over TLS SSL, which is cryptographic protocols that provide secure communication with the internet network. So what this grammar is simply trying to say is, think of, okay, for example, you're trying to communicate to your friend. Your friend is somewhere else, and then you enter, let's say, for example, you try to meet up with your friend to communicate what you're supposed to tell him. But while you're going, you've seen him from far, and then you now shout your message. When you shout your message, your friend hears. But the thing is this, he's not the only one that can hear. You have anybody around there can also hear the same message. So privacy has been known. Now, for HTTPS on the other hand, uses cryptographic protocols to ensure that only the sender and the receiver gets the information in such a way that, by adventure, you are not able to put yourself in the middle. You might not be able to discover or uncover the message that is being passed across because the password has encrypted the data. And that's why HTTPS is the more secure protocol for sending information. So, how do cookies and session IDs work? How do they work? Because we mentioned prior to now that servers use them to receive information from the server. So, we want to know how cookies and session IDs work. Now, think of it as a workflow. First of all, a user logs in. Then the server generates a unique session ID. Now, session ID, familiar with the session layer of the OSI model that is responsible for making sure that the session is responsible for making sure that the session is in place. What I mean is, when you start a Zoom meeting, what you do is you open a session. So the session can either become open or closed. When you set up a Zoom meeting, you set up a meeting, what you do is you start the session. And by the end of it, the session is ended. So now, when you log into an application, the server will generate a unique session ID for you. Then the server sends the session ID to the client, which is the browser. Although you don't see it because it's set up in headers, which is most likely found in the set cookie header. Now, the client will store the session ID in the cookie. Please think of it as a piece of data, as a piece of memory. Now that contains the session ID. Now, for subsequent requests, any further requests you're going to be making, the client is going to be sending that same session ID in the cookie back to the server. That way, the server knows that, okay, yes, this person is in the session. That is why you can make multiple requests. You can download, and at the same time, while you're downloading, just go to something, and at the same time, you can just check on that using the gospel affiliate session. That's because the client is using the session ID that will be sent prior to now, sending it back to the server. And the server will now use the session ID to retrieve the user stored session data. For example, the login status still going to be flat because they're using the same session ID. The user or whatever the case is. So that's how sessions work. Now, why are we trying to establish what sessions are? The reason is because session IDs are very, very much sensitive. And very highly sensitive. Because if they are stolen or they are retrieved via, let's say, cross-site scripting or network sniffing, or it is even disabled, let's say it is disabled, an attacker can hijack another person's session and post to another user. because we have session ID. Oh, it makes sense. So the session ID is more like an ID card for everybody that you can use to have free entry and free exit. So if the session ID is not is made vulnerable and it's made, for example, guessable, for instance, or there is a way an attacker is able to hijack the person's session ID. The attacker can press on behalf of the person. Think of actually coupled with another person's ID card. That's what we're trying to say here, basically. Now, so what are the rules of HTTPS? We established that already confidentiality, because encryption makes sure that only the intended recipients can read the data. Second of all, integrity. Hashing and message authentication codes ensure data cannot be tampered with. That means that whatever message you are sending, the same message is going to be given back. Because HTTPS has a way to hash data that is being sent. Then you also have authentication. So digital certificates verify the identity of the server and sometimes the client, meaning it doesn't go to a known person. So verify that this is the person I'm giving piece of data to, and this is the person that sends piece of data. So what are the bases in security testing? First of all, we have reconnaissance, or we call it information gathering. So what you do in reconnaissance is you gathering as much information as possible about your target, which is the web application. So second of all, we have scanning. So sometimes scanning is also messed up with information gathering, because one of the ways you gather information is also like scanning. Now, when you scan, you want to identify vulnerable services, potential vulnerabilities, and open faults, and etc. Then you have exploitation. So upon finding potential vulnerabilities, you now challenge as possible to see how you can gain initial access by leveraging the vulnerabilities you find and increase. Then we move to post-exploitation. Post-exploitation means maintaining access, escalating privileges, and trying to exfiltrate as much data as you can. So now that you've entered into the system, you want to ask yourself, how do I remain, for example, how do I remain advanced persistent threats? One of the most common ways of doing that is by changing people's passwords. That's why you discover that somebody has a social media account. The first thing he wants to do is to change the password. That way, he gets access to that account. Or you want to see how you can escalate your criminal serial application. Then you want to see how you can extract as much sensitive data and information that you can. And the final one is reporting, which involves documenting findings and the recommendation. Now, for security testing, or web application security testing, the most important tool and your go-to tool is something called Burp Suite. Something called Burp Suite. Now, what is Burp Suite? Burp Suite is a web security testing platform developed by Portugal. This is the industry standard tool used for penetration testing by penetration testers, bug bounty hunters, and web security professionals to find and exploit vulnerabilities in web applications. Meaning, as long as it's a web application, Burp Suite is your guide for every kind of exploit, for every kind of thing you're trying to do. You want to use Burp Suite. So, if you're going to be proficient in web security testing, you want to be proficient in using a tool called like Burp Suite. So, how does it work? Burp Suite has the ability to sit in between your browser and the web application, intercept, monitor, analyze, modify, and also replay all the HTTP and HTTPS traffic. So it means Burp Suite is just a tool that helps you to penetrate and at the same time modify requests, replay a particular request over time, depending on your aim or your action. And at the same time, you can use it to intercept, know what is going on web application. So majority of the time, you want to gather proper information about the targets you're working with. You want to use both application is working and what the application uses to probably authenticate or authorize certain information. How understand so far? How understand so far? Okay. Now, so what are this is more like a brief overview of the major types of flow application vulnerabilities. So we have some flaws called server-side input validation flaws. So these are the most common type of flaws you have on every web application. They often lead to cross-site scripting, SQL injection, command injection, etc. So, second of all, we have something called broken access control, or IDORs, which are insecure direct index references. Now, this is a flaw that occurs when hidden fields or URI parameters for user IDs and privileges are trusted from the server. Meaning the server does not have trust issues. The server doesn't accept any form of requests as long as it comes from the browser. For example, what do I mean by broken access control? Take for instance a situation where I can view my results. Let's say we have 10 users in a particular web application. I can view my results because I have something called a user ID. So that is how the server knows that it is me. Let's say, for example, my user ID is user ID 1. The server gives me, every time I log in, when I want to check for my results, check for my piece of data, the server will always give me my own piece of data because it has given me the user ID 1. So when I want to check for any more data, it uses the data that is attached to user ID 1. But what happens when I change my user ID when I want to send a request? Change my user ID from user ID 1 to user ID 2. In a situation where the server trusts that kind of request, not necessarily authenticating where the request is coming from. But remember, we have something called session IDs. So the way it's supposed to work is the session ID is supposed to match the user ID. How to make sense? Yeah. So in a situation where the server just trusts any piece of information, meaning I can use my own session ID to use that piece of data. That is called the broken access control or an insecure direct object reference. Because I'm basically referencing the direct object over an insecure protocol. Let's move into that. Now, also we have business logic flaws. This is when the server trusts client-side calculations or states. For example, let's say you're on the first website and you're able to buy something that's supposed to be for, let's say, 5,000 and you buy it for 5 naira. Just because when you send your request as 5,000 naira and it accepts the request using the tool that works with, you change the parameter from 5,000 naira to 5. Then you send the request and it's around itself and it's accepts that. Now you cannot do that on the front end because it's a fixed price on the front end, just let's say 5,000 naira. But for eventually you're able to accept that request, you change the price from 5,000 to 5. And you send it, and the server does not have a way of validating the figure that it's supposed to receive, and it goes. It's called a business logic flow. It's really sorry for you. Now, also, lastly, we have information disclosure. This is when you bypass disabled fields that reveal sensitive data that are meant to be hidden. So, yeah, so let's look at a number of flaws that we're going to be looking at today for our material session. Now, first of all, we have something called injection flaws. This covers the third and the fifth flaw under the OWASP doctrine. So, as I can see that this is totally amplified. Now, this is basically what is an injection flaw. An injection flaw is basically a web security vulnerability that allows an attacker to interfere with the queries that an application makes to its database. I'll take it again. An injection flaw is a web security vulnerability that allows an attacker to interfere with the queries that an application makes to its database. This occurs when users supply inputs directly or simply concatenated into an SQL query without proper validation. Now, basically, when we're talking of injection flow, the first thing that comes to our mind is SQLi, structured query language detection. Now, this gives rise to flaws, commonly known as structured query language detection. So, what do we mean for this kind of vulnerability? What are we trying to explain? Now, think of the website as a web, or sorry, the server as a web. Now, you want to ask yourself, how is it possible for my piece of data to come back to me exactly? Or not necessarily. You want to ask yourself, how does the computer know that this data is basically? For example, when I want to log into facebook.com, and I type in my username or password, how does the computer know that? What language does the computer know? The computer does not speak English, definitely. So, how does the computer understand that this is what I want to do? For example, if I tell you, bring me that bottle, what you would do basically as a human being is to walk over to the bottle and carry it. That's the first thing. Now, for a computer, if I want the computer to give me that bottle, that's give me my bottle, what the computer does is this. The computer interprets things in rows and columns. A database, because everything is stored in the database. So it interprets this all of this information, rows and columns. And then it specifies that when I make a request and I say, when I type my name, let's say my name is test, my username is 123 What it does is it goes to the database it has, goes to check for the particular role, then it stores everybody's username. Then it picks the text, and then it goes to the particular role where column is, and tries to match that what I put as the password for text is what is matching the database. I hope it makes sense. That way, in a situation where I put a data that is not correct, you tell me that incorrect login. Probably my username is wrong, or my password is wrong. The reason is because the computer was the database, it's using the database, and then it has gone to check the rows and it's called it has tried to match this thing together. So any time you're trying to retrieve a piece of information, let's say you're trying to search for something. Let's say, for example, you have an e-commerce website where you buy and sell, and then you go to search for, let's say, something that is on sale. Let's say, for example, you want to buy shirts. And then you type search, and then type shirts as an image. It will go to the database and give you everything it has, because it has a column, or it has a row on shirts. It will give you everything it has on shirts, because I typed shirts. That way, the computer is working strictly based on what I did. But what happens in a situation where, because I know how the computer interacts with information, I now begin to speak its language and ask. How does it make sense? For example, when I type in name and password, I type in this. Name, password. What I type as a conversational name is just name and password. So when I type it, when we're looking at what the computer does, the computer interprets it as, okay, select from this particular row under this particular column for this thing, and then match it to this particular row and this column. All of that is full sort of it. But that's really the computer interprets the information. So what is going to happen in a situation where I, as the tester, I now begin to speak the computer's language back to this. Meaning, I don't tell the computer name and password. I tell the computer select from this or this. Only this is true. Behave like this. And then the computer acts based on the language I spoke to. So it's not like I see the computer against it. That was referred to as an injection flow. So it's basically a web security vulnerability that allows an attacker to interfere with the queries that an application is inputting to the database. Everything is basically a query. It's a request. It's a query basically. So you interfere with that query that's next to the database. The user supplied input tells you that you see that the user supplied input directly or basically concatenated into an SQL query. So without proper validation, sanitization of proper validation. So by default, I am not supposed to be able to do something like that. That's simple. That's what I'm about to. But in a situation where I can do that, you have something called injection. Now, definitely, SQLi can lead to a range of severe consequences, one of which is data exfiltration. By doing that, you have the ability to make the data clean more than it's because you understand the language. So you can read, you can modify, or you can delete sensitive data. You can do by using SQLi injection. You can view user credentials, financial information, personal data from the database. Because remember now you're accessing the database. Now, also you can also bypass authentication. This definitely occurs by giving authorized access to the application by manipulating login queries. Meaning on the login field, you can do SQL injection to bypass authentication. Now let's go to the next section for the next vulnerability. Hot file inclusion vulnerabilities, popularly known as LFIs or the IFIs. So they are found under the OWASP ports and its floors. They are called AO blocks and AO5. Now, this vulnerability occurs when the web application builds a file path using a user supplied entry without proper validation. This occurs when your application builds a file path using user supplied entries without proper validation. The application then includes or executes the file from that path. It also leads to information disclosure, remote code execution, and local privilege escalations. So basically, what you're saying, what this means is, this happens when a tester or an attacker tells an application to read files from a particular file path that is not defined. So the files, the application builds file path by itself. So it means the application helps you to read sensitive information for in situations where you are trying to reach password contents, let's say from the server. So you are trying to reach contents from etc password file, that's common file. Now, using file execution vulnerabilities can use some floors, can use the particular file paths. For example, a gun of start and of start and of slash etc password. It's not specified the file path, but because you said slash, I don't know this is, well, I know the file name is this and this. So what the application does is that the application now is using its own system, builds a file path using that includes, because it does not validate the type to read outputs for you. Then you can have the password for the case in this. Now, there are two types of file inclusion for the abilities. We have the LFI, which is the local file inclusion. This occurs when an attacker includes the local file from the server's file system. Now, this leads to information disclosure. Basically, what we mean is you are trying to read, you're telling the application to give you contents from its own system. That is from your server, your system, you give contents of this particular file. So the server now gives you contents of this particular file, or you can create a virtual type. Now, that leads to read sensitive file, which is etc password file. Sometimes the shadow files too. And then you have configuration files that include those PHP. LFI helps you. LFI can help you to reach a lot of these files. Now, what is the most file inclusion? Now, since LFI is local, it's possible for an attacker to include a remote location. Meaning, I can tell that the file is the website, but the website is only from the file location. That means it can give you content from files of server system. It means that I can tell the application to give me files from a remote location. What that means is when you exploit this kind of vulnerability, you find that most times hackers can deface the percentage of applications, meaning they can embed another application from your application. because the application now needs to fit context from any notification. Then they can put anything in the application because it's now removed by the application. So, who wants to look at access control? Easy to design, easy to spoken about this before. So, basically, by definition, what is access control? Access control is a security mechanism that determines who, what, that determines what users and what users, the role attached to each user. So what it basically does is it determines who can perform an action on each resource. Meaning, on the system, everybody does not have the same solution. So you have someone that is the admin, you have someone that's a regular user, you have someone that's the customer, you have someone that's the supplier, you have someone that's this. It's depending on the application. So how does the application know how to distinguish one of all these people? So this is something called access control. Now, it enforces policies such as an admin can delete a user, but a regular user cannot delete another user. That's how access control works. It enforces policies based on different policies or based on different roles that have been set. So this means that users or systems should only have the minimum permissions necessary to perform their legitimate function. Meaning, as a user of that I should always because I am a user or I'm also a user. But as an admin, I should be able to do that. Because I'm an admin. What makes that responsible? Access control. But in the situation where an attacker finds a flaw that enables him to create this, it's called open access control. You have a situation where the regular user can do another user. When something like that happens, it's called open access control. Now, so there are two types of open access control, or you call them two types of privilege escalation. The very first you have is called the vertical privilege escalation, or vertical access control. How does this work? This occurs when a user gains access to functionalities or resources that are typically reserved for higher privileged users. For example, when a user becomes an admin of an application, it's called vertical privilege escalation. Why is it vertical? Because when you user to admin, like you are doing admin, things that admin should be able to do, so it becomes vertical. So it goes up because you are using privileges that belong to some organization. It's called vertical. Now, horizontal open access control, which is also called physical direct object reference, occurs when a user gains access to resources or data that belongs to another user on the same privilege level as it is. So, like I said before, if I find myself in a situation where I can modify another person's user data, let's say, for example, I want to delete my post, or I want to delete a tweet I made. And because of open access control, I'm able to delete another person's tweet. That's called horizontal open access control. The reason is because we are both users. I leverage the fact that I'm still a user and I'm still able to exploit their data. So it's horizontal because we are still privileged level. That's why it's called horizontal horizontal. So we call it critical data. When you can modify or manipulate another person's user data, it's called critical data. Now, we also have cross-site script. This is a very popular one. Cross-site script is also called HTML injection. Now, this is the web security vulnerability that enables attackers to inject client-side scripts, usually JavaScript, into web pages viewed by other users. It occurs when an application takes untrusted user input and includes it in an HTML response without properly sanitizing and coding. Meaning, we all understand that every application is going to publish HTML. That's what you want. But the application is when you make a request, let's say for example, try to let's say you leave the comments and these comments. There is a that gives you this comment on the post of something. When you comment, what happens is the application takes in the comments and stores it somewhere. Now, in the situation where instead of making a comment, I write a script that looks like a script that is supposed to be in the actual JavaScript code. Always say it's even as say no code. Okay. Send it to my comment section. And then the application now interprets it as a line of code and injects into its system as a functioning part. And it runs with it. These have injected HTML into it, or injected JavaScript into it. That's what we interpret to Java to cross-site script. That's why we said here that the follow an application takes on trusted user imagery and includes it in an HTML response. It doesn't value sanitizing or the coding it. The runner will then execute the injected script, believing that it is part of the legitimate page, because the script is, of course, script. So the browser will execute the injected script, believing that it's part of the legitimate page. The script executed originates from the vulnerable website, but effectively runs in the context of the result browser. So the script does not come from the person that wrote the script actual application. The script came in as a result of it. Instead of typing congratulations in the comment section, or else you are like, looks like HTML, blah, 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 enter. And instead of the application, interpreting it as a comment, interpreting it as part of the script that is injected into the HTML response. And because the application is not properly sanitizing, it runs it as part of its operation. Then this can cause an attacker to steal a victim session cookie, allowing them to impersonate the victim without knowing their password. This is because as much as you can involve, you can inject HTML into an application, you can also inject JavaScript. The majority of the time when you're testing for process scripts, you're trying to inject JavaScript into the system, and by injecting JavaScript into the system, you understand that you can control how the application is behaving. You can tell the application up this thing up itself. So because you can check for your own documents, if it is stored on an application, when a regular user comes to check for his own, let's say he comes to check on that particular page, the attacker can use that to get his own document or his own social So basically that's all for the theoretical aspect of web application security. And for now, we're going to be looking at the practical section where we're looking at some of the vulnerabilities we spoke about, how they apply, and how we can actually find them. So for our target application today, we're going to be using OWASP this show. Now this show is a key for all vulnerable applications that you can always download on your own. So alongside using Juice from HACK365 Global, we also have another web application that we're going to be using. So basically, we're going to be using two applications today. So for demonstration, we're going to be using Juice show, and then once we are done with this, we'll move on to the labs. We'll talk about our exercise on our second application on our where you connect to the VPN, and then anybody there can have access to the backstore application for us to use. So from here, we're just going to move to our particular trigger and then take it out from there. So if you have any questions, Scala online audience, questions. What are the process there is okay.
Imagine somebody when I'm one of the schools okay. Mine is on cross-site scripting. You mentioned that when the code is being imputed, which is not all not to be in this side, can in HTML, can that also be done using JavaScript too?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I'm looking at situations where you want to post exploitation on cross-site scripting. Your aim is to see as much as possible how you can steal a person's session cookies. And because that is something that you're supposed to use JavaScript to do, the JavaScript is what controls the behavior of an application. So if you want to look at how you can inject JavaScript into an application, so majority of the time the test for cross-site scripting we have to for how you can inject JavaScript into the application.
Okay.
Okay, so
So the vertical,
yes, sir.
it's kind of confusing. You mentioned vertical aspects. For example, I want to know more about the vertical aspect. Like, can you explain more? Because that one is kind of confusing.
So the question is the difference between vertical open access control and with the horizontal open access control of privileged escalation. So by form of definition, privileged escalation is where you're able to perform actions on behalf of another person.
That's vertical.
By definition, open access control or privileged escalation. It means you have the ability to perform actions that another person is supposed to perform on his own behalf. That was their knowledge. Okay, so because we mentioned something called access control. Access control is what allows every user the ability to perform their own action based on the vertical. Meaning an admin has the ability to do something that the user does not have the ability to do. The reason is because he is an admin. Now, in a situation where you're able to break access control and you're able to perform actions on behalf of another person, generally perform open access control, or you perform something called privileged escalation, meaning you've escalated your role or you've escalated your privilege. Now, we'll now begin to subdivide it vertical and horizontal. Now, when something is vertical, it means that it goes from up down, or it goes from down up. Now, if you're a regular user, for example, a user that is just as everybody is, and then you perform an action that an admin is supposed to perform. That is, for example, as a user, now you delete another person's user account. That's an action that is left for an admin. Because as a user, I should not be able to delete your account because we are both users. Deleting your account is an action that requires super privilege. So if I delete your account as a regular user, how did I do it? Because I was able to elevate my privilege to admin privilege. It's vertical. Because I've gone from admin is up. In hierarchy, admin is up, user is down. Understand? That's why it's called vertical. So now, because for every system, depending on the kind of system, it's a commercial system, you have admins, you have suppliers, you have customers, you have buyers, you have retailers, you have so many roles for the people. So because they have so many roles, they have so many actions they can always take. So take for example, a supplier has more privilege than a retailer on the commercial system. If I as a retailer perform an action that the supplier should be able to perform only for suppliers, I've performed privilege escalation, but I've done it vertically. Because in hierarchy, the supplier is above. That's why it's vertical. I hope it's clear. When it's horizontal, I perform an action that I'm supposed to, I modify data that belongs to somebody that is on the same level as I am. For example, I'm a user, you are a user, we are all users. And then as a user, as a person, I have the ability to post, I have the ability to delete my posts because it is my account and I'm also a user. But it is just my account. The only jurisdiction I have on my operation is just my account because I'm a user, right? I'm not an admin. An admin has access to every user, but it's just my account. I'm just a user. But in a situation where I can modify another person's data, that is, I can not only can I delete my own data, or delete my own account, or delete my own post, I can also delete another user's post, despite the fact that we are on the same level. Now, I didn't need to elevate my privilege to an admin. I did extra things. I did it as a regular user. Probably I just changed. Let's say, for example, I was supposed to delete my post, and then because the application uses something called the user ID, which I mentioned before, then my user ID is user ID 1. And on the request where I'm supposed to delete my post, I perform the action for user ID 2. It means I've done horizontal privilege escalation because I've done it in a horizontal base. Hope it's clear. Yes. Thank you.
Sorry, sir. I don't know if you can throw more light on the session ID. Yeah, the cookies, yes. Can you throw more light on this?
Okay, so for session IDs, think of session IDs as, like I said before, when you create an account with an application, for example, CSRF Academy, when you the very first time you log into CSRF Academy, let's say your name is Daniel. It's created something called the session ID for you. Meaning every time, have you ever asked yourself why, when you log into your system and you are using CSRF Academy for, for example, let's say 1 hour, and then you stop using your system, and then you go and do another thing for like 6 hours. You refresh your page, that's the page that you were using before. You just check for another action. It takes you back to the login page. Have you noticed that? Yes. That's because your session has expired.
Yes.
You need something called a session. What is a session? A session is when you are calling somebody, you are in a session. Because something opened somewhere, something opened from those two places, the receiver and the sender, for communication to happen. When you are in a Google Meet, what happens is Google opens a session for you, for everybody to use. That's why it's a session. That's why you can have something called a meeting link. Think of it as a session link. Have a meeting link that directs. So anybody that has that meeting link has access to that session. You get it? Yes. That's what the session is. Now, whenever you log into an application for the very first time, it gives you something called the session ID. That is how it knows it is you that is trying to log in. So for any request you want to make, let's say you log in and then you want to go to your dashboard. When you click on the dashboard and you make a dashboard request, what your browser will do, your browser will send the dashboard request, but it will send it to your session ID. That way, the server knows that it is your dashboard it's supposed to bring them, not Michael's dashboard. Because Michael has his own session ID, which is peculiar to him. Mind you, I'm calling the session ID, it is not just a very short text. The session ID is a very long piece of an encoded message. That's why it is not guessable, because it is unique for everybody. It is something that the server generates for you. I like the session ID. So it's more like a tag everybody uses from every action. So why is session? Why are we very, very emphatic about talking about sessions and cookies? Because cookies, sessions are the same thing, almost the same thing. Understand? Now, why are we emphatic about this? Is because in a session where I want to perform a request, and then I intercept the request, and then instead of me using my own session ID, I perform the request to another person's session ID. What the browser will do is the server is going to interpret the request as the person performing that action, not me. Reason being that it is that person's session ID that is using. You understand?
Okay, based on that unique.
Exactly, because it is unique to that person.
That unique ID, because that person is one of that.
Exactly, because two people can have one session ID.
Does that imply that whenever, like sometimes you want to access a web page, it will tell you that we accept cookies?
Exactly.
Okay, so those cookies that they say they accept cookies,
Yes.
How if you give it access now to
what do you when you tell a browser to accept cookies? You are telling the browser to store cookies for you. Sometimes the applications you log into for the very first time, Next time you want to use the application, you don't log in. Okay, true, of course. That's because it has stored your cookies for this. Understand? It has stored your session for you. So the next time you log into the application, you don't need to go back and be logging in again. It will use the cookies that you have used before and just resume the session for you. It is unsafe practice, actually.
Yeah, so sometimes the point of where I'm trying
Yeah, it is unsafe practice, actually. But then, for sake of seamless things for people that want to do things fast, some browsers help you store your cookies. But it means that when the regular attacker just goes to your system, you can just steal your cookies and use them for whatever it needs to use for. So, hope we are clear on that.
Yeah.
So we'll just move on to the practical version. So, like I said before, we have we're going to be using the Drift Shop for our demonstration. And then what we are done with this, we're going to be moving on to our 365, where we have another web application which we can test and find as much vulnerabilities that we can to look at how it works. So for Drift Shop, first, we are all familiar with Linux, so I believe we are all familiar with Linux. Let me it's your go-to tool for whatever thing you're trying to do here. So is it find it? Check if you visit. Okay. So first things first, like I said, GShop is downloadable for anyone that uses Linux, and then from there we can just move on. So I've downloaded GShop already. So
do we do that now?
do you have Linux running on your system? And you can try to see if you can download GShop. But for the sake of using GShop for our demonstration, we might not need to download GShop because we also have a application on our phone. System that going to connect to when we use your VPN, which will get to. So this one is just for us to explain as much as we can. Then we'll now move to the second application where we'll do it together. I hope that works for us. So thank you very much.
So when I consider that I've been able to access your system from the ground since that we don't have to say
There is a provision for that actually. That is for. So now we have the web application. And looks pretty decent. Just that we want to see how we can find the number of stuff was spoken about in the functions, spoken about what else, cross-site security, what does it was about, and open access control, SQLi conjunction, business specifications, independent laws, and likes of that. So we want to see how we can, yes, want to see how we can look at some of them. Is find 2 or 3 from here, get the concept of what we're doing, then move on to our main application for the exercises.
So since we are not like many of us are not running on Linux, how do we now keep
It's on your HACK365. Once you have access to your HACK365, you can always use the application. So when you are home and you install your Linux, you do it together. So for that's definitely no problem. But just for so the video is going to be up. You can always go back to check. So now this is the web application. When you are in web application, the first thing you want to check out for is to understand how it works. Now we see that on the side panel here, we have a menu for a couple of things. Also here, an account there is a field that allows us to log in. And then there's also a search field here that allows us to search for so many things that we can also search for. And then as you can see, we have quite a number of pages that are up and running here. Now, the first thing you want to check for on every web application, let's start first with logging in. Now, there is a page that allows us to log in and input our passwords. Now, there is, we try logging in, you'll find that tells us an invalid email and password. So can I go to the screen, or should we put up it?
Switching off the lights and brightening. Switching off the lights and brightening. For some of the work is there.
Okay, it's good.
Is it better?
Yes.
Right. So the first thing we want to do, yes, let's try and see how we can register, right?
Okay.
As a regular user. So let's use an email. Let's call this email what? Let's call this email tests. Test user at gmail.com. For the password, we have a password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I'm correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So
They must be also 8 paragraphs.
yes.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have a different question that I'm supposed to fill. So what's your eldest sibling's middle name? We use text. Now, when in our notes, we mentioned that there is a tool that everyone that uses security that wants to perform security tests on every application should have, which is known as Burp Suite. Now, Burp Suite comes with Kali by default, although there's a full version that you can outsource for yourself and buy by yourself. Then Burp Suite comes with Kali. So, as much as I'm testing, I want to be using my Burp Suite for every action I perform. So, I'll just go and open Burp Suite.
How does this OS from the juice shop differ from the is this software?
What's that? Is that? What's the shop is a web application?
On this one.
It's a web application. Think of it as a website.
Okay.
Zap is not a website. Zap is a tool.
Okay.
Yes. Zap is a tool that works somehow like Burp Suite.
Okay.
So that's what it's used for. Now, Burp Suite comes with its own browser, which I'll be using for demonstration. Okay, so what's in this one? Now, so I mentioned that Burp Suite enables you to see what is going on the website as you use it. So if you go to our HTTP history tab on Burp Suite, which is over here, this tab here, then you have a lot of tools. You have the targets, you have the dashboard, you have the targets, you have the proxy, you have the intruder, the repeater, as much as you like. Now, on our proxy tab, we have a sub tab called the HTTP history. Now, this tab enables you to see what goes on behind the scenes. This you're able to see what goes on behind the scenes. Because for every request you make, it's a request, it's a full request. So the application monitors all of the requests. So you see that there is a request here, there's a get request. There's a get request here that's a REST request for user API that says, who am I? And this is a request for everything we want to do. Now, if I decide, now, let's go ahead and clear my history. So it starts from scratch. Now, if I decide to log in, let's say we want to create a new user. Yeah. I type in tests user password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Express question. What is the other solution? Test. Now, if I try to register, it tells me that my registration is completed successfully down here. You can now log in. But if I go and check what happened behind the scenes, I could see that there was a post request that was sent to users using an API. Now, let me enlarge this so you can see it properly. Now, you would see that in the post request I made, all of my inputs were in my request. Remember, I mentioned the concept of the request and the response. So you send the request, and then the server gives you a response back. SMS. So you can see that now there's the request and the response. So boxes has the ability to tell you what the request was and what the response does is. So boxes can take the request and send the request to your server on your behalf. But why box is important? Because you know when you click on the button, you click on it once. For example, when I wanted to register, I registered just once. Boxes has the ability to make you make multiple requests. You can do one request multiple times. Meaning, I want to see how this application will use if I change something in the request. But it's still the same request. I can change a keyword. What it has been to replay the request multiple times. All on the same page. Now, so if you notice the request I implement, it tells you where I set my request to. So an API for users. Now, if you check the content of the request, you will notice that everything I type in my registration field is typed into my user into my request field. So you notice that my email is here. Yes, you have my password is here. Password repeats, which I put is here. Security question is here. Question is this. Data I put is here and here. All the security answer tests. Meaning that the application was designed in such a way that it's supposed to receive those things as inputs. And based on what I put in, giving a response. By the time this was done, it gave me my response. What is the response? Success. The success response. After the validation, after that validated everything I did. But here is where it gets interesting. It works with, I noticed something with this. What did I notice in my response? There is an extra line here because I see status, data, username, role, dialog user, profile image. If I'm active through my ID 22, meaning I have a user ID 22. Which means every action I'm going to be doing
must be used as an authentication for
yes, meaning my user ID 22. How does it make sense? Now,
and they cannot enter maybe logging without this ID as just like every session
exactly.
require this ID.
Exactly. So this is my user ID, although I still have something called the session ID.
Okay.
I hope exactly. Now, but here's why I say it gets interesting. There is something called role, and the role here is customer. Meaning that if there's a role called customer, there's a role called admin. This is the information gathering begins. As all the tests. Now I've identified that there's a role called customer, definitely there's a role called admin, and maybe there's a role called supplier, maybe there's a role called warranty. Because when I register, this is what it is telling the application that this person that just registered, the role of the person is a customer. Meaning the privileges I should have should be the privileges that relate to a customer. Together. Exactly. So now that we've registered, we've seen how it works. So we check other requests. We see that for my security answer, my answer was test. When I was putting my security answer, my answer was test. But look at the request itself. It says the user ID. What's the user ID? Which it gives us. And our previous request, what was the user ID? So the next request was going to send. It sends that request. Now, if you notice, this is the response. This is not a request now. This is in the response. Yes. But the next request was going to send. When I was going to my security answer list, my security test answer, it sends the request with my user ID, which is 22. That way, there was a success. The user ID is. I'll leave it together. All right. So now that we've logged in, we've been able to log in using we're able to click on account. Now, what to test for? One of the vulnerabilities we tested for was SQL injection. What we spoke about today was SQL injection, which is the ability for you to inject queries into an application and for it to misbehave, basically. Now, we want to see if that is possible, because one of the things that SQL injection helps us do is authentication bypass, which we mentioned actually. SQL can help you retrieve much data and at the same time bypass authentication mechanisms. Now, that way, if that works, we can look for SQL queries and inject them into the login and password field and see what would happen. How would it behave? As long as they are true. Are we together? So notice now, I tried to make a wrong login. I tried to make a login. A new request was sent. As you can see, my history has been added. I have two more, I have a couple of entries more. Now it tells me check for login. I try to log in with email and password. It tells me in my response here. When I try to log in with this email and this password, which obviously is wrong. There's nothing valid in that.
So you just simply yes. Because the IDs are not the same. The others are not the same. Because
I try to log in wrong. But then it tells you something funny. I'm seeing a 401 of the right response. This is solution. Let's just move. We'll try to make sense out of it. Now that we have this request, and remember I said it's box which we can play a particular request multiple times, right? So one of the things we can do is we can send this to intruder.
send it to what?
Intruder.
Okay.
Intruder is another tab.
Okay.
Up there. Yes. So if we send it to intruder, we'll see our request from intruder. So what does intruder help us do? Intruder is not like a brute forcing tool. I help you to brute force anything you want to brute force, as long as you know what you're doing. So what I want to do, I want to see how I can brute force the email and the password using SQL queries. And I want to see how the application behaves. If it is possible for me to get probably a 200 error code, if I get a 200 error code, then it means I can actually log in with that particular code. And possibly that might even make me become an admin. Because right now I'm speaking the computer's language. So you want to ask, how do you get SQL queries? Yes, you can always get SQL queries from the next. It's as simple as you type in SQL payloads. Yes, there's an SQL payload list on GitHub that anybody can use. So these are a number of payloads that you can use for the injection attacks. So if this is our SQL injection authentication bypass payloads right here. So for example, we copy this and then we want to use this set of payloads to see what would happen if we could trust a particular field. So let's try, for example, email field. So how does intruder work? You highlight the field you want to be first, you add tags to it. Then you go to your payloads.
You click somewhere now.
I said you add tags to it, there's the add button.
Okay.
This button here.
Okay.
You can add, just add. And then you go to your payloads. And then I paste what I copied from the website. I paste it. So what is it going to do? It's going to use every entry here to send a request multiple times.
Okay.
But it will be changing the content of what I highlighted here.
Okay.
Based on the list I gave.
You see, you can have a breakthrough.
Yes. So once that is done, I can start my target, I can start my attack, and I will see that the status code changes. 55 from there, 401, like that. And then so this did not work for us. Now let's try it on the password field. Let's cancel this. Let's check. Let's see what it gives us.
So, can I ask a question?
Yeah, definitely.
So basically, what we're trying to do now is to be able to figure out if the application is vulnerable to SQL injection.
Yes, definitely.
I don't know, but back in the days when we used to test platforms or systems for SQL injection, one of the methods we use them, for instance, this looks like an e-commerce platform.
Yeah.
So we'll go to, like, for instance, go to the products. Most like it comes with product ID to the URL, and you add an apostrophe to the URL. You click enter. So when it loads that page, it loads the page with an error message from the database showing you some content about the database which is not supposed to show. Then it's like an obvious one that it is vulnerable to SQL. So based on how it's handled, the apostrophe and the implementation from the backend.
Yeah.
You can also tell.
Yeah, so that applies when you're trying to look for, because I remember I mentioned that SQL injection has, when you're looking for SQL injection, you're trying to do two things basically. You're trying to see how you can extract more than it is supposed to give you, which is one, which is data exfiltration.
Yes.
And then you can also try to say you can bypass authentication.
Okay, so you are trying to bypass.
Yes, what we are trying to do now is bypassing authentication. Now, if I have, let's say, a field where I am trying to take, for instance, sorry, take for instance, I have a field that allows me to search for entry. Let's say search for this application is running. Since you also the challenge, error handling, to hook an error that is neither from not very consistent. Okay, so now let's say we have a let's say for example we have an API that is responsible for giving you results when you search for something. This is probably a query. Let's say for example search equals to something, and then when I do search equals to something, I put a column there. I put a column, let's say a semicolon, or not even a column now. Let's say an apostrophe, a double apostrophe. And then it sends me an error message. That means to a reasonable extent, I know that is vulnerable to SQL injection. Yes. If I'm looking for data exfiltration using SQL injection, if I'm looking for data exfiltration.
Because after that, we then use tools like SQL dump,
SQL map and SQL. Yes, you can do that. If you are looking for it, but SQL injection has more uses, not necessarily for just the time. As a matter of fact, it's because we have a time schedule now, we're trying to box time. There's something called time-based SQL injection, where you can even use SQL injection to perform denial of service.
Yeah.
Yes, it's possible. There's something called blind SQL injection. SQL injection can be used for whatever it is to use. Just a matter of expertise. So yeah, that's it. This seems to be taking our time. Let's search for, let's just wait for it to complete so that and just search for more. And just discard this. And you can go back. Cancel this. Go back to our request. Let's send this to Intruder again. Let's try another list. Hopefully it works this time. And password. So we see that actually from our error response, there is it's actually vulnerable to SQL injection. You might just take our time. So from our error response, what is this? An SQLi error. There was a select form where you are also select a wizard where you do this and password of this in our error response or in our response code. It gives us an error response that looks like the SQL code. So we if we prove for this, can actually write out this SQL injections. Does this make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So, like I said, one of the things we do today is dump the database, obviously usernames and user database, hash the password.
Yeah, definitely.
Because that's just in
Definitely.
because since the aim is to bypass the login page.
Yeah.
So that aim is once you make
So, scratch. So let's move on to our special request. So we had our mail to the, let's take something like and so here we have we have 4, 1, 2, right? What happens if we log? It tells us invalid email and password. On the back end, what response do we get? We get a response that tells us that we should select from this and this and this on the database, right? Meaning that if we go further, depending on the amount of time you have, and so on, if you're persistent enough, you can actually check it out and you'll be able to find as much. You would eventually be able to find papers. So we'll just try a couple more, a couple of times, and we'll see if we're able to. We can exploit for that. So what happens if we change this from capital letter to small letter? Then we put small links here. Let's just try and zero. Objects. So that's fun. But then, yes, I'm sorry.
Can we apply an apostrophe in the email field and see random as well?
You can use like remember there is a random event.
Apostrophe with the email. Okay. Can we check the response from server?
Yeah, so the response is this, what you have here. Let's be like error like we did before. So listen to
the response.
an SQLite error, definitely.
So I think sometimes analyzing the error, like the SQLi error message, can give more insight into what that we are into by part of which.
Okay.
And so I'm just looking for my own technique anyways. So I don't know what your approach is like.
Yeah, definitely.
Because like I think the apostrophe with sites that are vulnerable to SQL rejection. So that was why I say let's try an apostrophe there. So which is an error on the response. So what this means is that that particular field, the email field, is vulnerable to SQL injection. That is to say you can, you keep SQL queries there and you get it executed from the database.
Right, that's my problem. But we don't want to sleep too much on this. Of course, when we are done with this, I want to see. No problem. So definitely after the session, I'll be able to this properly. We don't want to sleep on just possible. We'll confirm that the vulnerability is there.
Okay.
Definitely. So now we're going to be logging in with our own credentials that we created with our office to remember them. Test user. Yes, and then we'll see how we can explore all vulnerabilities. And then yes. So first things first, we're going to be logging in with test users at gmail.com. All right, so we have this. And if you click on a basket, is there a review? You see that there is a piece of information under reviews. Now, under reviews, we find this. This is a vulnerability, or can be considered as a vulnerability, because we have information disclosure that tells us the email of the user on the system. All together, as on the system, all you just want to know is the username. There's no reason for you to know the email of the person, because here Bushbox attacks can start coming forward. So we want to take note of this as a form of vulnerability. Now, having looked at this, we also want to come to Burp Suite. We want to take a look at our application generally and look at the content of the application. So we have an API that runs on, we have assets, we have public assets, we see that the images are there, and then yes, we can use. Also, if you check the REST APIs, there is an admin that contains the admin contents. Also have users, sockets, not really much information that we can work around with here. Okay, so now, like I said, because of time, the other things we didn't look at, we're supposed to look at things like directory which possible. I think we'll focus more on those in our main application. This is more like you're working for before we get into the main application, because we have the time constraints. All right, so now that we've checked this, we've looked into this, let's take an input field, for instance. Do we have any input field? Sorry. This is an input field. This field that tells us to review an input field, because you can use data here and submit. See the review has been saved. Right. This search field is an input field. Right. Because it takes what I give it, but then it gives me as a search result. So now that we have an input field here, what do we want to search for? One search for another input field, one search for SQLi, and at the same time one search for cross-site script. More cross-site scripts. Getting the same one scripts. That's what I'm doing using how this will respond. Now, so for us to be sure, now there are preliminary things we want to test to check if there's actually a vulnerability in the system, which was what we did with SQL. By just, for example, putting an apostrophe, we were just confirming the vulnerability there. So don't just exploit the targets. You see those who say people have time and time against some exercise. Right. If you type something like a simple open and close tab for, let's say, now this is, I don't know if you can see. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this? This is which one? So then when you have an idea of what this is. That's not say enter, but I'm using it to be sexual. Now this is something that should go into this is something that should go into that should be found on the source code itself or why the website. This is not search, this is not a search entry or something. But I want to check and see something like if this works and this is repeated into the HTML code, then it means that this application is going to process together. So we type enter and we see now. What did it do as a result? Test. Now, the first red flag here is the fact that what I typed was H1 tests, closed by H1. But when I search my results and see those tests, what happened? Well, it means that it repeated this as an actual piece of information. If it didn't sanitize, properly sanitize my device, I'm supposed to be seeing H1 versus test first and H1 as my results. But here I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing test. I'm not seeing this. Even if sanitize this. Now, let's try something different. Let me change this to H2. In the situation where I change this to H2, what changes? The size of the test change. Test change. Reading this application is reading this thing as part of the get tag. It's possible. I hope you understand. Meaning this application is going to process with this one. I hope it makes sense. I hope it does. Displayed with other code. Not we are saying that application displayed itself. Other piece of code as task. So it's running with this as a task. If I change it to H3, test becomes smaller. If I change it to H4, test becomes smaller. This is because this is a line of code. This is a line of code. And it's a thing that's so this is a cost. We get our major application. Are we good with that? So we've seen we're able to identify that we're able to identify the access control issues. We saw the whole query as part of the questions API. We need to identify the exploit itself. We need to identify what else what else we want to identify. Let's check. Okay, so we have something in our cards. We have this guy in our cards. Now, we've forgotten about our now there is the request here. There's a search request here. Now, let me expand my screen. Can we also see this? So basically, the first line of this here is authorization bearer. what it means is this chunk of code right here, sitting right here, is your session ID. So this is the session ID for this user. This is the session ID. That's why if you check the number of requests. So this is one request. Let's check for another request that it's made. As you can see, this is another request. These are two different requests, but the session ID is still there. These are two different requests. This session ID is still there.
Because one person is one
Is that it? For every request, this is making that request. This is making session ID. Huh? Okay.
Correct me if I'm
So
wrong.
it's right? Yes, correct.
Okay. But I feel, or maybe I presume that the authorization bearer is a security check that is being implemented by systems to make sure that the request is coming from an actual browser. In case of where requests originates from, for instance, bots or we do use systems that are forcing tools that doesn't use actual browsers. So, and again, a session is being created as a response from the server. So most of the times it comes attached with a cookie or like if you understand how handshakes work, the request is being made, the server acknowledges, makes a response back. So it is when the acknowledgement has been made from the server end that a session is being created for that particular user. And most times sessions are created after authentication as a whole. So I used to think that authorization bearer was more like a security feature.
Authorization bearers.
Yeah.
This is authorization. This is authorization. Okay. Yeah.
It has what I said about
It's the token. It's not a it's the JDOB token
yes.
that is used as a session ID. Now, it is not designed for checking the request coming from our actual website or things and what our website is doing. This is it that the accuracy as much of a fact by the time the applications that do not even use user IDs, what they use basically is session ID. Session ID that is used to check that the request is coming for this particular user. Sometimes if you decode the session ID with the system that ID, you can identify that this is this person's name from the session ID. Because session ID is generated. So sometimes session ID is even generated from the username, email, password, and everything as well. So sometimes when you are testing for the statements, I want to decrypt the session ID. You can even find information from the user itself. So it is not actually designed for testing the request also in the browser. How that's request again. Thank you very much. So now yeah. So we want to check for this we have this in our cart. I want to see how this works. So an API is what handles this. So in this basket, if we decide to check out, let's see. I don't know what cares. So you say this. Now, For this request, let's try what as possible to see how we can intercept requests and not just analyze. What does it mean to intercept the request? It needs to stop the request before it gets to the server and change the content.
It's the user repeats.
Yes. Yes. So what do I do now? I click on my intercept. I want to see what request is going. Then I click on continue. See IP for cards. I forward the request. Send this also. And then what need to add card number. Those need to add an expiring month. I submit. This. Okay. Now, I've been clicking on submit, nothing has been happening. Why? Because I've accepted the request. I accepted the request before. Remember, my intercept is on. So I have to forward this before click on submit. Are we together? Okay, so this is how the application takes checkouts. So now let's go back. Let's go back here. Now there is an upload picture feature on my profile page that tells me to choose file. Now we're not going to be checking for this because we don't have that much time. But then there's a bug known as a file upload vulnerability that enables you to upload files that are not in the format of, for example, JPEG format or PDF format. For arbitrary files that can be used to execute shells from a remote location. So, for example, there are ways you can actually achieve that. It's even possible to bypass this mechanism sometimes by deceiving the browser, by deceiving the server. Let's say server was designed to accept files that have just .pdf format, .pdf or .jpeg format. It's possible for you to bypass that restriction by creating a malicious script. Let's say you have a Python script and you want to upload it in an upload function that works for a picture. Now, this can be done by saving your Python script as .pdf, .py. Some servers are not smart enough to detect this kind of bypass, the py at the end of it, and then it works that way. Then there are some servers that just accept any form of file type. When you have servers that have accept any type of file types, you'd always want to check for how you can trigger your script. If it is a shell, you can always want to find out how you can trigger a shell upon uploading a malicious file or a malicious script. But that's not what we are doing today. So let's go back home. So we have this add to baskets. Add this to baskets. We have this in our baskets. Go to our cart. We have this check. Check our response. We find out that we send this to repeater. if I send this request on repeater, I'm trying to replay a number of requests multiple times now. Now, I see that the request is a rest basket 4/6. What happens when I change it to 7? Tells me success, but doesn't give me results. What happens when I change it to 4? Tells me success, and I find the results for a particular file. Sorry, for a particular entry. Are we together? I was able to access content of the application that is not essentially on the front end of the application. Now, why is this important to note? Because there are times that applications hide certain entries on the front end because they don't want to get access to them. Probably it's locked or something, but then it's used a particular user ID. Let's say the application is locked. Let's say the application is the particular package is on, let's say 4/10, but on the front end it was not supposed to be there. From here, I can have access to it. This is what we call the insecure direct object reference. Yes.
So
The insecure direct object reference. Yeah.
you want to tell me that for every section, for every ID, let me say, okay, these are the products.
Yeah.
These are the products. And what you are seeing even on your viewpoint that encrypted.
You said what?
I can encrypt, assuming that it's being encrypted, that value, that's full value including the route.
Yeah.
It's encrypted.
Yeah.
Now, that even when you inspect it from the browser, it's also being encrypted.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it actually goes back to the server side. The server side encrypts that and the traffic. So you want to tell me that even when that IP is being encrypted, maybe using a format of encryption, and I put it here, you'll be able to get a particular IP because I'm asking.
So the way it works is, for insecure direct object references, when you are doing things like product listing, the mitigation strategy is always to encrypt, because nobody wants, when you have a request system that uses IDs of 1, 2, 3, 4, that is guessable. The reason why I can change
in the view,
yes, in the view, exactly. The reason why I know that I should change 6 to 7 is because I can see that it is 6. When I see 6, I believe there's 5. But when I'm seeing, for example, an MD5 hash, I'm not seeing 6. I wouldn't want to check for IDORs there because I can see that that's an encrypted information there. So that way, like, I'm going to perform insecure direct object reference, I might have to go an extra mile. If it is a product ID, for example, modern applications use product IDs and other IDs that are a long hash line of code that you cannot guess yourself. You might have to now start using information disclosure. For example, let's say you have an API that omits so much information. I can now use that information that I got from the API and get an owner ID that I will not necessarily have access to, copy it from there, and now use it on a path like this to now do insecure direct object reference. But by default, when you use user IDs that are not guessable, encrypted formats, hashed formats, as long as you have used cryptographic measures to make sure that it is properly secure, it cannot be guessable anymore. So this will not work in situations like this. When you have situations where you have a user ID or owner ID of 2, owner ID of 3, then I that is testing know that there's an owner ID of 4. So I will want to check for owner ID of 4 or 5 or 6. I hope it makes sense.
Yeah,
exactly. So that's why this is working. So as you can see, even on the application, it says you successfully solved the challenge. You build basket, you build another user's basket, shopping basket. Yeah. Right, because I changed the ID from 6 to 7. Exactly. So what else do you want to check for?
I want to try something.
What was that?
I just remember.
You still have a second application.
Can you just maybe log out from this user's session? There is I just remember the particular query that we used to bypass authentication login pages. Let's just see if it's going to work. Because I feel like it's one of the challenges that this particular platform should be vulnerable to. If it is vulnerable to SQL injection,
Right. Okay.
So in the email that put an apostrophe.
Apostrophe or you call it.
Apostrophe. A space. Or that is capital letter or space. Two. Capital letter two. Space. Attack.
Space.
Space. Attack. Yes, then put any random in the password.
Yeah. Login has been logging there and you can see the accounts.
So
you have
actually happened. What happened there? What happened was that because we know that it was vulnerable to exploitation, so the first command told it that it should assume the idiom tab and the idiom field to be true from the back the database. Then for the password, it should comment it down. That was those attacks. So it was I and the apostrophe or true. So it should return true for the email, then it should comment out the password. So it will log you into the first user.
The first user on the database, which is the admin.
Like the admin in this case. So you'll be able to successfully bypass the
So we need to put up a section for you.
Yes, of course. So you can go and expect the response from you will see the user ID. He's literally logged into the admin account. As an admin, with the admin privileges. So it's just like bypass and log into the first account and the database.
So what is the solution to it?
It's basically being able to, it's an SQL injection, so it has to do with validation from the code itself on how it takes in field and how it processes it from the back end.
Yeah, so what is the remediation?
So for SQLi, you want to ensure that the input field uses only first statements.
Validation, like
That's corrected as he's saying what is the remediation.
Yeah, the remediation is what we are doing.
Yes, as well. Since you can be able to impute this and give suggested result, how do you now counter this and give that it does what
Like your recommendation.
yeah, what I'm saying. So let me put an instance. This is the dog. This is also page. So imagine that somebody can wear another person's face and come in here. Maybe I can wear your face and come in and be like, show here. So if I put a security check there, that will make sure that nobody wearing any kind of mask can come in. You will not be able to. So it's about the validation of the input. So I was able to impute the query into the field and get it executed from the processor. I don't know if you understand. So if I'm able to properly validate the input properly, I'll be able to say, okay, this is not a normal regular input, and I will not validate that. I will not take that as a
We are still on the same.
The input validation of starting the file is what we implemented on that server that is injecting even file upload carrying certain characters that are irregular. It won't allow to get uploaded.
Yeah, but the problem is that I could have used what is it called? Yes, right? Yes. I could also I think Gmail don't accept it now. Yeah, but I could create normal email that can have that hyphen. Yeah. Right? Now let me do you understand? Because I'm looking at it now. It's a problem from your end.
yes.
But it's like if you say we are not accept, we have to create a measure that will not accept such character, you're already creating a problem.
So yes. Okay, let me say we can take it as a string.
Yeah, if we treat it, I'm coming from the programming aspect.
Oh, sorry. I'm taking the program as well.
So if we are treating it as a string,
Yes.
okay. Now we know I saw space.
Yes.
On what we have.
Yes.
We don't accept space, but space can be part of password.
Yes.
Space cannot be part of normally, but space can be part of password.
Yes.
So meaning that I should be able to trim it out.
because you use space as part of your email. And if that space is not accepted, if that space was not part of this thing, will it have worked? It won't have worked. So if I trim, I don't really get what I'm saying. That's something that came in. It came in as a request. It came in as a request. And I accepted it. Exactly. And even when I did not understand what it means, I still gave access.
Let me explain to you as a programmer. You program with PHP or programming language. Okay, let's take for instance PHP Laravel. Now, if you have to do the platform that takes in input field, check the database, we have controllers. So the controllers makes a request, use a query request to the database. So in that query request, SQLi was to where this is. Instead of just carrying that particular thing like that and just having it, putting it into the request like that and it's being executed, you can treat it as a query. Like as a string. You understand? So as a string, the SQL request would now treat it as a string. It will not implement it as a query, as part of the query. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So that is where the validation comes in. To prepare the data in a format that it will not be implemented as a code. It's just like SSL script, like SSL cross-site scripting. So it implements, it takes it as a code, implements it and renders it. So, but if it takes it in,
where email is equal to this.
This is not jumping to like that.
Exactly. As long as
exactly.
So I was thinking that it also affects prepared statements. It does not affect prepared statements. Okay.
No, what do you mean by prepared statements?
You know that when there is normal what you call normal, not using a framework, doing a normal PHP. You can actually use a prepared statement instead of accepting it just like you mentioned.
Okay. Yes.
So you know that because you are now using the ends. So those prepared statements are already being translated into your security.
Okay. So let's just move into our second application principle for the sake of our labs. So our application is sitting on this bringing back to the yes, on HACK365. You pivot in our application is sitting on
Yeah, we also have got to this place on HACK365.
yes.
So where are we? Yes. Once you're logged into your HACK365 account, you need to download a VPN. All those procedures are available. So just follow the procedure and you'll be able to access this particular machine. So you can get access to that application we just exploited and even this machine. So there are different machines based on the one we are carrying at that time. So you have all of these applications at your disposal from your own personal account.
So this is our test subject for labs, and we have for the first task here, it tells us what is the password of supplier Jane. So it means we have to enumerate for a supplier named Jane, and then tell me as possible to see how we can get a password. Now, so first things first, we want to use Burp for this. There's my history. There's history. Oops. So that storage is sitting there, and then so for every application you want to test, the first thing you want to check is how you can find directories on the system. So it's imperative to know that Yes, there are directories under the application. Not the directory. The directory is more like a folder. So we want to test for directories that we can have access to and if they are exploitable. So on Linux, we just use, there are so many tools you can use for directory listing, but I prefer to use Ferox Buster. So when I type in Ferox Buster, this, and I specify my target application, HTTP, this 10.10.0.7. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it better. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it better. Now, this is the command I'm running. So what is this supposed to do? I have a word list of several directories. And what this command is supposed to do is supposed to run all of the contents of my word list and find if there are directories on the application for the contents of my word list. It will make sense by the time we run the command. So this is a small list. Let me use the means from the list. Then you will see that to begin to check for a number of directories. To begin to check for a number of directories, find which of the directories exist on the system. So we have a directory now. As much as it gives us directory, it gives us the error code. So it tells us, okay, this directory is accessible, this directory has been redirected, or you don't have direct access to this directory. It continues somewhere, that's why you don't have access. Now we have one that shows us a 200 code here, but this is the application itself. We have a bunch of 200 codes of response to 200 codes. So we have an application, we have another directory running on backup index.html. We also have images. We have images on the application, but this is a 301, meaning it's a redirect. It needs to direct to somewhere. Meaning if I try to access this application using this link, I might not have access. There's the proof. If I try to do this, oh shit. So if I try to do 10.10.0.7/images, it will tell me I do not have permission to access the resource. Most likely I will move somewhere. Yes. But then it means there is something after it because it is a 301, just a redirect. To me, I have access, I should be able to have access to the content of it itself, but I don't have access to the directory as a parent folder. So also have another one called supplier. So the task we have tells us to find the passwords of user of supplier Jane. So it means there is something inside supplier. Well, this is a redirect. So I'm sure this is not going to give me.
You back. When you notice that you cannot have access to the last directory that you did now, which is 301.
Yes.
So what do you do?
Yes, that's where I'm going to. All right. So this is a redirect because I'm supposed to look. I'm pretty much sure that there is something after supplier. So I want to perform another directory listing on this directory as a URL because this URL exists. 10.10.10.07/supplier exists as a URL. So what happens when I decide to do another directory listing on that as a URL? So while this is running, I would want to do another one. I might just split my terminal vertically and use directory busting to 10.10.0.7. This is another tool, they just do the same thing. This is another tool, they do the same thing basically. 10.10.0.7/supplier. So I'm doing this because I've confirmed that this directory exists here, but I don't have access to this. So I want to see if there is a content inside the directory that I have access to.
Yeah.
Now this would now begin to test for another form of brute forcing while this is still ongoing. As you can see, this is still ongoing. So while this is going, so as you can see, I have another file, another directory called robot.txt. I'm sure if we copy this and check our application, we should be able to find something here. Why is this thing on string.7 4/robots.txt? Okay, so it takes me somewhere. And it lists a couple of directories for me, but as you can see, I'm disallowed. As you can see, I'm disallowed actually. So it lists a couple of directories that exist. So this is actually called web crawling. But from this, I'm able to see that there's a backup file, there will CGI bin, and then there's of course the supplier file, and then there's another direction that has the content of the uploaded files. So while I'm doing this, let's check the. Okay, so directory busting has given us a valid directory, which is supplier accounts. So it means that supplier accounts exist on the system. So if we check our application, supplier accounts, we're seeing this from here. To be sure that we're on the same page. Yeah. That's where we got it from. So, I'm sorry. Supplier /accounts. So we have a bunch of, this looks like a base 64 encoded format string. This is like a base 64 encoded format string. So we are hoping that this should contain contents of users or important users on it. So we can just simply use open source encoders online and try to see what we can come up with. So copy the first one. Let's just go to base 64, decode. Try to decode this guy. Base 64. Then the funny thing is, Burp itself has a decoder. So we don't need to go that far. So if you come here, it's not really looking for. You know where I copied it. Sorry. Come here. Copy. And come here. So this is a bit 64. Okay. So I see it tells me this is Joe user. And I'm saying password platinum. So these are the credentials for user Joe or Joe user that I can use to log into his accounts, most likely. Let's check for another one. We're hoping you'll find for user Jane. So I'm just saying Burp has a system where you can actually use to decode. You don't necessarily have to go that. This is row Emma. This is not really looking for. We create here better vision. So, oh shit. Okay. There is Jane user. And there is waiting for Friday. So waiting for Friday might be the password. So we can just try this on 365 and see if this is the password. Supplier Jane. Submit. Okay. Yes, we're correct. That was the correct answer for. So we're able to perform directory listing. From directory listing, we found important credentials or hidden credentials inside the hidden directory, and then from there we're able to use that to perform to get our first exploit. Now, let's go back. Next task says break in. So this task says break into the admin panel and submit supplier Debbie's password. So breaking into the admin. So we can decide to go, if we go back to our application, there is a login field. I'm guessing. Okay, so first things first, I'm seeing on the get request up here, there is an action that says login register. When I try to go to another tab, it says the action changes to guest book. So I believe it's fetches data from that. So what happens when I change this to admin? Let me see. Okay, so there is a secret administration menu. Where do you want to be taken to the review service? So let's do it. So it says something right after admin. Okay, so we've confirmed. Okay, so we've confirmed that there is an admin portal. We just need to be admin first before we access this portal. Definitely. So this gives us an idea of what we're looking for. So now let's go back and try to see how we can exploit the login field for admin login. So let's log in. It says user ID and password not found. Okay. Sorry. So let's go back to our proxy. Login. So there are two things we can do here. We can either go the SQL route or we can go through the word list route. So we would first a word list for the admin and a word list for the for both the password and the what's the name username itself. Or we decide to see if SQL injection is going to work for us. So first things first, let's send this to intruder. Let's send to intruder. Let's try the SQL routes first. Execution bypass. And set payloads. Yeah, set payloads. Start and attack. See what happens. Everything says. Says. Okay. Okay, so this has the highest content length. This particular query, admin, blah, 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 blah. So let's see if this works. So I just want to, and I check the response. Let me type it myself. Admin, this, or this was this one. Because Okay. So that gives us admin access.
No.
Yes, really caching out. So using this query and just made sense because of the length of the response Bob Switch received, because some have lower responses. This has a higher chance of response from the body itself, the length of content. So this tells me that this might work, and now we have access to the admin page. Now, since we have access to the admin page, remember we saw that there was an admin portal. So I think if we go to admin portal, not sure anything. Okay. Let's move to admin. And then let's check for current users. Show current users. Okay. So we're able to find users. Access control. This is something. Well, access control. Access control. And from what I'm saying, it uses the data to signify this. So it says this is admin. His role is A. So I'm guessing A is for admin. A is for admin. Since his role is A. U is for user. And S is for supplier. So that's how it. That's how it gives its access control. Yes. So it means you can even find the admin username, admin password itself. You don't even need to. So for copy, I don't know. Yes. Let's see. MD5. This looks like an MD5. Let's try to decode. MD5 is not real. Okay, that's good. Let's see. Who's next?
I think that's the MD5.
There's MD5. There's no MD5.
No, check,
We'll use insource.
check that as
We'll use this guys. Let's use track station. Track station would do that for us. No, track station would MD5 hash or cyber check. Cyber check. Let us paste this here and give me link. Let's just see. Right. Yes. Oh shit. Oh, shut up. Still loading. Okay. Let's see, this is showing instead. Let's see if this is okay. English code. This is the link. Let me just show you. Okay. So listen to the hashes properly for us. Let's give it another piece of hash for user identity supply and table. Okay. Let's go to short. It's okay. Yes. So the original string for this is secret. So we
This is on Gemini.
yes,
Or is an MD5, right?
yes, an MD5. They're both MD5.
Or it's one or it's
Yes, it looks like a SHA1 commas plus sharp. So that means the admin username and the password is actually admin in secret. So you can just test that out by okay. So just try admin secrets. Okay, this is correct. As the admin username, so admin show current users. Okay. Our task says we should do what now? Briefly and supply David's password. What's David's password? No, no, this is not it. Try this. Okay, help me. Is the password for user David. As you can see. So
The one you use now is MBS 5.
this is an open source. Yeah, this is an open source link. I mean, website that just helps you. So just help me submit the status of answer. See your success. Okay, so every says this is fine.
This is going to be actually
Yeah. Yes, definitely. So it says no problem submit the original email of user view. I think we should be able to do that when it is a bill. Let's view here. See, this is bill Uganda. So it's possible this username, this email is bill@uganda.org. Username is bill@uganda.org. So crazy.
I think do you know how the format email format?
I don't know.
You can check the log, see it's not
But check for
if the log file, it will likely be directly.
let's see. There are no logs here.
Can you check if the business orders, maybe there will be you has at least another option?
Previous orders, so the box, reset users passwords.
No, by the left side, there's a tab around the whole.
On the previous orders. So probably a typo from backend. Probably a typo from the backend.
Maybe if I use your directory listing, maybe there is a file that logs user authentication. Yeah, okay,
We're not at time. Oh, that's actually. I strongly believe it's a typo.
Is it typo?
I strongly believe it's a typo.
Okay,
from the
from the
backend.
okay.
That's actually believe. So that's really response for that. For that, yeah. Actually, I'll do inspections. Inspecting the web application or request, find out what parameter defines, determines if it's a common admin. I think that should be a role. Inspecting the web application and requests, find out what parameter determines a user from an admin. Access control, role now. Pardon? What? Yes, yes. So that's access control. So, what else? Footprinting. What web server software and version is running on the target?
I want to ask, you were making a presentation, you talked about Malaysia and Stanley. Most times, the first thing you do if you want to approach a web service like this is you build the server, get the type of server, the type of software running, check if they are vulnerable to any services that are known. If they are vulnerable, we try to check the server and software running on it and the version and everything. So then from there, if you can see, do a directory listing, then start looking around with the admin and the records.
Let me see this statement. But the thing is, I've spoken about the use of nmap as a tool extensively. So it's more like a bit of so we are speaking about using nmap as a tool for the content. And then
So the videos are available. They can.
yes.
Sorry, what's the
That's academy.
And then I believe the answer to this has been seen so many times. When we were testing and then for forbidden pages, I think we had things like, sorry, 7.supply, I think. That told us was.
You can even see the nmap again.
Yes, you can also see it map to check. So I'm seeing Apache 2.4.59 as the server that this guy is using. And while I can see it here, I can also see it using, I can also check using nmap. For service version 10.
So with that, can you still access the directory
It was that.
as it's showing forbidden as per.
Yeah, that's for the direction that I don't have access to. It doesn't forbidden. So we have, I need to stop this guy. So we have 10 Apache 2.4.59. So just use that here. Let's go back to our application. We've not tested for cross-site scripting. So let's just test for that. Can use our guest book and the script tab. The script tab here. And then it should alert what now? XSS, right? Okay. So let's see what happens if this would work. Let's see. This triggers XSS. So let's see if we can try something that is DOM based. Now, if I can do this, it means I can also alert my documents.cookie. Will this work? Okay, this doesn't still using, but okay, yes. So that's my cookie, that's my session idea. So right. So this was where I said in the case where XSS becomes stored, you store XSS on a particular field and it becomes stored XSS. Any user that goes there has the ability to trigger XSS unknowingly, and that's where session hijacking starts from. Session hijacking now starts from there.
Yeah, really do that.
So when XSS becomes stored, when you store XSS on a particular field, let's say for example, the field where people can comment, and you see everybody's comments there, then there is the stored XSS there. When a regular user goes to that page and he refreshes or he triggers that page, he triggers that script, and then this is the session ID can be gotten from there. So that's why they call it stored XSS. Why those is called reflected XSS.
Yeah.
So there's reflected XSS. So I'm thinking of, we're looking at seeing how we can also do a DOM XSS. Since
Please, let's check the task code.
so as
Footprinting.
classified footprinting. So now, so when we do scripts, close the script tag, we want to alert.
What was our answer?
Answer was Apache security.
Let's space between GPU.
No, there is no space.
No, between the D and 2 rather.
There is space.
Oh, the rest from here. They introduced a space after this mistakenly. So
Okay.
put the space.
Okay.
Put the space, submit. So you can just take out the space first. Actually, 4 or 5.
So what happens after the 5 attempts?
Take out the space, submit again.
There's no space. Yeah. So, right. So,
How about in the labs?
so that's for the first footprinting. What is the second? Where's the last? Based on the reconnaissance, how many common files indicate disallowed entries for web crawlers? We found how many? That was under our robust of TXT file. Yeah. 6. Yeah, 6. Hope it's 6. Okay. Think that's all for the formal lab. This one. What do you do? Okay. Right. So yes, we're checking for XSS as our final task before we run. So let's see how we can alert a DOM XSS. What the DOM XSS is basically an XSS that enables you to change content of the application itself. DOM. So alert, let's say document dot dot what dot body dot style segment dot body dot style dot background color. Background color. What color are we using? Does background color is equal to red? Is it or blue? Does this work? Document body style background color blue. Let's try. Let's try. Okay. Okay. It's really okay. So it worked.
Yeah.
Look how we are looking for.
Okay, the format is of you, right?
That's what we're looking for.
The format email.
Yes, as you can see.
So it doesn't mean that periodically you have to be resetting the boxes.
For
This
this. No. This is using my new session.
okay. It's not saving, only
No,
testing.
yes. So means we can. Sorry, if I sign to my guest group. Now, here's what I was saying about stored XSS. So if I type what I typed in before, let's say regular scripts. Scripts. I just type alerts. One. And I had the entry. Notice it started from the first XSS I gave it. That's because these are all the entries on that particular.
Yeah.
This is what I mean by stored XSS. It means for everybody that visits this page, any comment he types in, it's going to start like this. That's why it's stored. So this is the first one. This was my second entry. Third entry, as you can see, before my final comment. As you can see, this is everybody's entry up until mine, which is the last. So that's going to continue.
If you are accessing this page from a new person now, let's say using incognito without any section.
Incognito, incognito stereo. What incognito just helps you do is not to save your.
That's what I'm saying. If you are accessing as a new person without
Okay. Yeah. Exactly.
If you are accessing as a new person, we need to figure this.
Let's try that and see. But for that means we'll have to create a new user. We're going to register with the full name. Tests. Register. So let's see. Let's see if it's that looks going to happen. I'm sorry. Do you see?
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Yes. So UGB something. Something. And I could try to add anything. Yes. So I think so. Let's try this view. Let's see it out. So it didn't work. Probably it's a typo then. My country typo.
Another type.
Yes. Exactly. It's another typo.
That's what.
That's 3. We found 2 emails. There's this.
Snooping or SQLi.
Snooping around.
Oh, the answer.
The answer was we had to. We had this one
Okay. Neutral.
and we know we cracked the password for this guy to be secret. So password for build at gam.org.
I put that, let's see.
Sorry, that earlier.
What do I see? Honestly.
That's gam.org.
Where did you get the initial G from?
Which one is that?
There's one this thing I saw just now where there's big G.
At Microsoft.com.
No, at Ganga.
Oh, that's the type. There's no G there.
Because here it's showing there's G.
Okay, that's why I said it's a typo from backend. So it's supposed to be built at gam.org.
All right, submit.
So that rounds up all the tasks
For this section.
for this session. So
All right. So questions.
questions.
So in this one now, we'll be giving the build of the first. Anybody going online now, you watch the video, the first of all get discussed on these labs. Any questions? Please check online for how many. Questions in house. If there's any area you're not clear, you need clarification.
These questions might come where we are trying more, more hands-on. Because now the concept of I think we will use the comment section on the video files to take drop these questions.
Okay. Any take-home assignment?
Probably find more bugs. There are more bugs in parts development.
Okay, box.
There are more flaws in parts development. Let's see. This should be vulnerable to SQL injection. I mean, we already found out that this is vulnerable to SQL injection. Also, to be able to reset somebody's password, let's try.
There's no need, no, there's no need, right? Because there will be answers for that challenges.
Okay. Fine. So, more bugs actually. File of code vulnerabilities, SQL injection, dumping databases. So yes, there are more bugs to find. We have found us 5, more than 5 actually. From the export process scripting. Then more bugs to be found in this application. So you can just access the application in your own. Continue your test from there.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I hope this session was impactful. Did we learn anything new?
Very, very.
So, like we said, everything we've done so far, it's already available on your account, free of cost. Once you log in, you can access the labs like we mentioned. Just follow the steps. If you don't know how to use the VPN, there's also a video guide available. Take your time. Then, if peradventure, you know he's working from his own Kali Linux. Right? If peradventure you don't have a system that can take that Kali Linux, use your VPN, log into the lab. There are machines for you. I think there's a Kali Linux there that you can use to run your attacks. That is about all your local machine can't run Kali or any of those tools. We also have those machines provision which you can use anytime, any day. Carry out as many challenges as you can, and ensure you get to the leaderboard. Please show us the leaderboard. Every month, moving forward, at the end of the month, we're going to be publicizing the top 3 persons on the leaderboard. And as we are publicizing them, whatever opportunities available for you, you're going to grab. Right? Then if there are freebies, if there are swags that we are pushing out to the community, we're also going to be benefiting from them. New course releases, you're also going to have access, depending on what is available at the time. Then also with our partners, definitely there's also an opportunity for you. So good thing is, as of now, we currently have a presence in the UK, we currently have a presence in the US. Then, of course, we've been in Nigeria. So it's a good thing. The UK community will be kicking off ASAP, and it's also another avenue for everyone of us to network with local and international members, community members. Then for our interns, I'm sure you have access to the international interns community or group already. Please make use of every other person you see there. They also have some technical skill set or experience in one way or the other. So with that, I think we've come to the end of this session. And I think David, I have to remove it from this detail, but as many labs we are carrying out with it, the more points the account is earning. So we'll practically be looking from the other 3 below, or maybe we'll just take your account off to tell you. Yes, sir.
Okay, my question is, actually, I'm not a beginner in cybersecurity.
Okay.
So, in a situation whereby you stumble upon what seems to be like maybe a vulnerability,
Yes.
based on your experience to the platform, and how to consign you trying to reach out to the entities in charge of the platform, and there is no response. Is there any kind of advice you give to such a way to raise an alarm, because some of those platforms contain vital information, anything for myself and maybe my business or some other people out there, and which any hacker in the world can go and exploit and take this. So is there any kind of what do you do in a situation when you try to reach out and tell them about that I think they might be involved with the system, but they are not taking it serious, or maybe they are not giving any response? Is there any way you go about this to bring the disclosing the vulnerability of the student?
Okay, there are some things you just have to be careful about, right?
Yeah.
Because of legal issues here and there. I'll find vulnerabilities, I'll report, they will not respond. You come back 2 weeks later, a few days later, they have used your reports to patch it.
Okay.
they will patch it without acknowledging or responding because they don't want to look weak. Then there are instances where they will actually acknowledge and thank you for reporting, and they will patch. Some will go as far as giving you a reward for finding. For us, we actually welcome such. If you find a vulnerability on our system, feel free, report to us, and we will even reward you with. There's a time we've given a reward of up to about $500 before for someone for finding out something. Yeah, so, but not every platform. Right? Some persons that don't even, for example, those that develop the system for them are different from those utilizing. So when you send a support email or such kind of report, it's going to someone who no longer have access to the system. And because they are not actively on it, they don't bother responding. So that's where the issue arises from. So in most cases, you just have to be on the safe side, be mindful of the kind of data you upload to such platform. Right? Because sometimes there are ways of people, they can come back to file legal cases or suits against you in the name of you were not authorized to carry out any.
No, it's like we are using a platform.
Yeah.
I know that you say you just throw an error, and you're like, okay, this error looks sketchy.
So yeah. So however it is, you just keep reporting because if you take it the other way around, maybe publicly speaking about it, you may not be tagged as the hacker or the bad guy who is deliberately trying to damage the reputation of the organization. So just move away.
But on the other end, but it's trying to help the they won't sue him now because that's somebody has to
If you then also when making such reports, try as much as possible to document your findings, two, even those submissions and emails you're sending. Document them to have a proof. All right. Thanks everyone for participating in today's session. Next week, Saturday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., another practical session. As much as possible, you have access to the labs. There are over 500 labs, and we are too sure you cannot finish them. Yes, sir.
Sorry. You know, in hacking, yeah, we have different types of attacks. The one that use the scripting is the one that use tools.
Yes,
We have the one that build their tools and progressing. So, like for me now, I've migrated from the script builders to the ones that make their tools.
Awesome.
We are now at the phase of using AI.
Awesome.
So now, I just want to ask you a question. In this your engine now,
Yeah.
can I use my tools against them? Like, because how I work now is I build AI-based tools that make my work easier. So, for instance, that site now, I can just tell my AI, okay, analyze this site, break into this site using any possible way you can do it, and just give me the reports. Then, basically, the report, I will analyze the report and give it more instructions on what to do. So, can I use my systems on that?
On our infrastructure, yes. On this, don't worry, is a controlled environment.
Okay,
All the labs, there's
right?
nothing you do to them. If you want to crash them, no what crash them. If you find any bug, you can let us know. But we are sure what we are exposing because we know the kind of persons that are coming on board. Right?
Okay.
So whatever thing you have access to is a local network.
Okay.
So run your AI to. In fact, we're interested. We even want to see some of the tools. If there are tools we can also introduce to the platform for others to benefit from, fantastic. Whatever be your terms of agreement or however you want to go, we are open. If there are tools we can also push to the international market.
Some tools are classified and it's not like open source or
Yeah, we know.
most of them are people don't even know that they exist actually. So I just like I train models, I train AI models. We have made a warm GPT and stuff like that. So most of those infrastructures are being handled trained on a large database of cybersecurity skills and stuff. So, and most of them are more like tools that are released to maybe corporate entities or because of it has a very large potential if misused. You understand? So, some of the times it comes with restriction because in hacking you work with communities. Like I have counterparts in Russia, India, a lot of them. So and sometimes I don't work alone anyways. When we use these tools, there are like timelines to use it. You understand? So and except some I've been made a brochure so that people can just use it to test. So but that won't be a problem. So why I'm asking is so that let it not be like I cheated. That was why I asked. So because if I try to use it, I will see that somebody is just like just finishing the whole task so fast and everything.
The thing is this, right? As much as possible, maybe after this whole thing, we're going to have more discussions. Last year, I represented Nigeria and Africa in the global AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning competition. My team came first runner up, or like second place globally. So while all of this exists, we are also looking for this kind of skill set because the world of today, whether we like it or yes, is riding on innovation. Innovation will never cease to exist. In fact, if you have a skill set, you have a tool, if you don't bring it out for the world to see, you're only wasting the time you use in developing that. So what solution can your tool offer? Who are the right market? Who is the target audience? We'll connect that skill set to the right opportunity. Let it be of use and it will be in your name. Then producing something, it's usable and because you just want to keep it. And it's not that it's, okay, there are also projects. And I would not want to discuss those kind of projects, right? There are projects we do for some certain things. They are not for individual consumption. They are not for corporate consumption. They are for, as you call it, classified. So if the classified ones, let it be that, okay, this solution is providing value in XYZ way, but don't have a solution that is not classified, nobody is utilizing it, nobody is paying for it, and it's just there dumping in the name of I'm the one that developed it, I want to hold on to it for special cases to earn high points on places like 365. Yeah, so it's an innovative thing, whether you do it or not, some other person it will erupt somewhere tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't even understand. You look at the competition before Google was having high traffic. As soon as ChatGPT came up, their traffic dropped. They had to go back again. What can we do? And they diversified moving into AI, coming up with badges, change it quickly to Gemini. And before you know it, VO3 is now taking over. So we just have to, in fact, if you have an innovation, the earlier you release it, the better, because the next minute as you are blinking, another one is coming out and yours becomes obsolete. Yeah. So overall, it's been an interactive session and it's been quite engaging and wonderful. So to wrap up, I think for our online participants and audience, please apologies for taking our time a bit today. At least I'm sure we all have benefited from it. So with this, we have come to the end of today's session. Next week, same time, as much as possible, what we want to be doing moving forward is, for example, as we are finishing, the topic for next week will be released today. So if you want to make research on it, make research that way. When we come in, to be easier for everyone to understand. Then for every of our sessions, they are available on YouTube. Take out time, watch them, go through how the labs were sorted, the preliminaries, explanations, and all of that. Then follow us on our social media channels, accounts, platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. They are available, the videos are there. And of course, courses are available for our consumption and our learning. Learn, acquire your certificate, and so much more. Then again, too, yeah, very important, if you have interest on a particular topic you would want to lead a session on, you can just still let us know. So we'll schedule you for one of the weekends. It's also another avenue for you to boost your personal profile, right? So with time, I'll get to share some of my experiences in the industry. Things like this boost your profile in ways you can never explain. For example, sending a link of something you've done in XYZ place, time pass to an organization looking for. It will clear a lot of plenty interview questions, bring your economy. That has sorted that for you. So it's an avenue for you, a platform for everyone at work. If you have something you want to share with us, just write to us. We'll go through it. Once it's approved, yes, we'll leave the session for the weekend. Any question? The absence of none, thank you all. Time for our group photograph before we go.
Thank you, sir.
See you next week. If you have any questions, feel free to drop on the WhatsApp group. If you are not on the group, kindly join the group. And yes, so that I can be getting updates as they come up. So please, group photograph.